Welcome to the Casting Across Fly Fishing Podcast. I'm Matthew of castingacross.com, where I explore the quarry and culture of fly fishing. Well, today on the podcast, we're going to be talking about wading boots and waders, and we're going to talk about them in that order because I want to make it very clear off the bat that I believe that wading boots should be your priority. Waders keep you dry, wading boots keep you comfortable and safe. And I'm saying that as a guy in my mid-30s, and I'm saying that as learning that lesson well before a time where my body really needed really good boots. Just basic upon some of the fishing I was doing, the terrain I was using, I quickly realized that canvas-bodied boots with simple felt soles weren't going to cut it if I wanted to fish safely and hike effectively and feel good after a day of fishing. And this is something I learned, if not in my teens, then definitely in my 20s. So, wading boots. And I'm actually going to start with a caveat. I'm recording this the first week of summer, which means that a lot of folks are probably wet wading. So they're not putting on waders to go fly fishing. They're putting on sandals, they're putting on old tennis shoes. And honestly, if that is working for you, then go for it. But if you have noticed that you're slipping and you're sliding and you want something better, then by all means, go out and invest in a pair of wading shoes, wading sandals. A lot of the fly fishing companies that I think make great products put those out. Personally, I don't use them. Personally, I use kayaking shoes, and particularly by a brand called Astral, Astral. I have no formal relationship with them, but buying a pair of their kayaking shoes has been a breakthrough for me after trying all sorts of different sandals and shoes with quote-unquote sticky rubber and even some wading shoes for fly fishing. The Astral kayaking shoes have the support, have the sticky rubber, they drain water, they're comfortable. I don't mind walking around with them all day with no socks on even. Love them, can't say enough about them. I'll actually put a review of a pair of those shoes in the show notes. Because, like I said, no kickbacks from them yet, but I love these shoes, and they accompany me on all my wet wading adventures. So I would say if you're wet wading a lot and you're noticing you're not liking having the little pebbles in your, between your toes, and you're sliding around on rocks, or maybe your sandals are flopping off of you or things like that, check out a pair of kayaking shoes, because these are made for people who are doing more than just sitting in a boat. They're having to get out, they're having to move their kayak or their canoe, and so it's a really great use for kayaking shoes is wet wading on uneven surfaces. They also give you a lot of great feel. The Astrals and some other pairs of kayaking shoes I've tried on, they really give you a good sensitivity, so you're not clod hopping around on rocks. Okay, so that's the caveat, is wet wading. But then you move towards the boots. Kind of like my discussion about fly reels and fly line. We said that obviously you want a good fly rod, regardless if you're fishing for 6-inch brook trout or 60 pound fish, whatever that might be. You want a good fly rod, because if you can't get your fly to the fish, then it doesn't matter what the rest of your tackle looks like. But then beyond that, especially in freshwater, and I would say for trout more than anything else, having a really nice reel is fun, and if you can afford it or you can get one, then go for it. But if you only have $300 to spend, I would say spend $100 on fly line, $200 on a reel. Don't try to get the best reel you can get and then just get whatever fly line. And I've said that, on the podcast, I've written about that. I'd say the same thing holds true for waders and wading boots. If you have X amount of dollars, buy the best wading boots you can buy, and then get whatever waders you can afford. And like I led with, waders keep you dry, wading boots keep you upright and keep you feeling good. So what do I like in a pair of wading boots? Well, first of all, let's talk about soles, because that's the most, the most common thing people think about. We'll get to what I believe is kind of more important stuff later. So, soles. If you're going to be fishing one place all the time, varied surfaces, then you can't beat felt. I believe I'm eco-friendly and environmentally conscious. And I also want to say you want to abide by your local regulations. So if you're in one of the states that doesn't allow felt, then don't do felt. It's just that easy. But if you're fishing your home water the majority of the time, there's nothing wrong with felt. You can see that things have kind of eased back as far as people's cracking down on it, realizing that felt is a drop in the bucket as far as transferring invasive species and things like that. That being said, if you are convicted that you don't want to use felt, then don't use felt. Rubber soled shoes are great. They do have their drawbacks. I almost died on ice this year because of it. That's a little bit hyperbole, but you know what I mean. But I like rubber soles, especially if you're moving a lot and you're not in the water. So for your hiking, purposes, if you're walking in a long way, that's gonna be infinitely better in mud and really all sorts of varied terrain, even wet grass. Your rubber's gonna do way better than felt. But of course, studs are going to make everything better, whether it be rubber or whether it be felt. And again, I do want to kind of come back to the issue of felt. If that's something that you do feel strongly like this is going to hurt my stream, then don't do it. But again, I know a lot of people who fish the same stream all the time. And so if your local regulations allow it, then fish felt. And then if you do travel, then either have another pair of boots or, clean your felt very well. But I think that's one of those things that, again, we're going to see. We made felt soles the scapegoat. And a lot of people ended up, getting rid of boots or getting hurt using other inferior soles for the conditions they were fishing. All right, I'm off that soapbox. So studs are going to be great. You even up the ante and get bars. You get reinforced studs. You get kind of the grippy studs that have like prongs on them. You use those. I've never felt like I've spooked fish, because if you're in a stream that is so calm and so smooth that the clicking of your studded boots on the rocks is scaring fish, then you're too close to the fish. It has nothing to do with the soles of your boots and the metal on the bottom of them. I'm convinced of that. Now, could you make the case that there are circumstances where you can get, you can spook fish because of your studded boots or anything like that? Yeah, I'm sure there's that situation. But I've been fishing studded boots for 20 years now, and I can't think of a time where it was the studs and not me that scared the fish, if that makes sense. So that's your soles. Now, of course, there's convertible sole boots, and I have to say I've been fishing Corkers boots for a few years now. Again, not professionally affiliated with Corkers, but I love the Raptor boots that they came out with, I guess 2 years ago. But if you're not familiar with Corker's system, it is interchangeable soles. So I actually have a pair of felt soles, a pair of rubber soles, and a pair of really heavy-duty spiked soles that I use when I'm fishing out in the ocean. So going from soles, though, and whether you have one pair of boots, two pairs of boots, or you have something that has options like that, or you have a pair of spikes that you can either screw in or put on over the top, which I'm not a huge fan of screw-in spikes. If you're going to taking them on and off all the time, I feel like you have to kind of commit one way or the other. Those soles of those rubber-soled boots are durable, but you're going to be wearing out some rubber soles and even just the footbed of your boot if you're taking them on and off a lot. But hey, do what you want to do. Fly fishing companies happily will sell you more studs and more boots. So moving up from the soles, the next most important thing is support. So you know how this works for you in your hiking boots, in your running shoes, in your dress shoes. Don't treat wading boots any different. If anything, expect more of your wading boot. Think about how much money you're spending on them, between $100 and $250. You want them to work for you. So personally, for me, ankle support is huge. It's just always been something that I've struggled with, and so to find a pair of boots that I can really tighten up around my ankle, that's going to have good lateral support, so side to side, and then also front to back has been really important to me. And so that's always something I look for in a boot. Now, if something with your arch is, a huge priority, or room in the toe box, then try on boots. Go to fly shops. Make them work for you. Don't buy something, off the shelf, off of the internet without trying it on. And if you do, don't feel bad about sending it back. That $15 shipping and handling expense that you have to pay is going to pay off in the long run when your feet feel good. Because if this, if your feet feel good, your legs will feel good, your legs feel good, your back feels good, your back feels good, you feel good. And there's a very realistic scenario out there where once you hit a certain age, it doesn't matter how good of your gear you have, you're still going to feel rough at the end of the day. So don't exacerbate the situation by having inferior boots. So I would say support, whether that be your footbed or laterally within your foot or your ankle. It needs to be priority number one once you've determined your sole configuration. Then after that, I would say access. This is one that I'm not sure why fly fishing wading boot manufacturers don't pay more attention to. But I'm not a big guy. My feet aren't big, my ankles aren't big, my calves aren't big, and so consequently my the booties on my waders aren't big. And I struggle to wedge my feet into these boots sometimes. The tongue is super narrow. I'm unable to put it in there. I actually had a fly fishing company tell me once that I should bring a little tube of like dish soap with me fly fishing and lube up my feet before I put them in the wading boots. That's ridiculous. I spent, a couple $100 on these. That's completely unnecessary. And actually, I took those boots back. Actually, no, they're my backups that I, let other people use. My guests have to force their feet into their wading boots. I get to slide them in to my corkers with comfort. But anyway, that's something that I would definitely consider as you're trying boots on. It's one thing to do it with that little ankle high booty at the fly shop. It's another thing once you got all your gear on and you've got layers on to try to get your foot into the wading boot. The next big thing I would say with wading boots is how are they built? Where are the seams? Are the seams super exposed? Because those shoes are going to take more of a beating than any other pair of shoes that you own. I've blown out a couple of pair of wading boots. I've never blown out the stitching on a pair of hiking boots. So I feel like just the way that you're using them, and for me, the way I wade, I'll wedge my foot in between two rocks to kind of give me some stability in the river. Not unsafe, but just kind of, I use the side of my boot to brace myself. And so I'll blow out the stitching on the toe, I'll blow out the stitching on the ankle, and then even how do the laces go on? Are you able to cinch those laces up tight and lock them down to get a nice tight knot so that you're not having to retie your shoe? It's like tying your shoes not fun during normal circumstances. Tying your wading boots for some reason is even less fun. If you like the BOA system, that's kind of the system that you might be familiar with from ski boots. That's great. I had a pair of those and I love them. They were actually attached to a pair of waders and the waders blew out on me just from a bad seam. So I don't fish those anymore, but I loved them. I thought they were great. I thought they were super quick and easy. They were easy to take off at the end of the day too. So if that's something you have no ill will towards, the BOA closure system, then go for it. If everything else matches, but I would say if it's between a boot that you love with laces and a boot that you're okay with a BOA closure system, definitely go with the laced boot, just because it gives you that versatility of the other things that you like. So wading boots. I'm a huge believer in good shoes in general. My running shoes, I will spend extra money on. My work shoes, my hiking boots, my flip-flops. I feel, again, not very old, but if my feet feel good, I know I feel good. All right. Wading boots. Waders. Again, waders, their purpose is to keep you dry. Everything else is really bells and whistles. That being said, the most important thing this is me. You might have a different set of priorities. My top priority in a pair of waders is that they're form-fitting without being restricting once I have a couple of layers on. Now that might sound like a paradox or an oxymoron or something like that, but I want a pair of waders that's not baggy when I am just in a pair of liner pants. But also one that's not going to feel constricting once I have on a pair of, thermal underwear and then, heavy fleece pants. And I found it again, not promoting Orvis over another company, but the Silver Sonic waders, I love them because for me, for my build, for my height, they don't have a ton of sizes like some of the other manufacturers do, but for their Silver Sonic waders, they fit me great, and I'm able to wear just a pair of really lightweight pants in the summer or in warmer weather, and I don't feel like I have tons of fabric and Gore-Tex, hanging all around me. And in the wintertime, I can wear 2 or even 3 layers and not feel like I'm, the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. So for me, that's a big deal, and I think that's important. As you're moving through brush, you're going to damage waders, and this is again my opinion, my experience, and both from wearing waders and also working in fly shop and seeing the kind of repairs that come back. When you have waders that have excess material and they're creasing on you, those creases, especially if they get sat on, they get pinched, they stay creased for a long time, that's where your waders are going to fail. Those creases and those kind of pointy edges that get rubbed up against things. And it might even be your wading belt that does it. You might have a crease in your waders and your wading belt rubs up against it, or every time you take them off, they fold in the same way. Too much material is going to cause problems. So I would say that regardless if that's a high priority for you or not regarding fit, I would say for durability and longevity, that should be a priority. Something else to think about is features. If there's things that matter to you, like the front zipper, I know guys, because of mobility, because of their age and stage in life, they need to use the restroom more than most. And so to have that front waterproof zipper is worth those $50 or $75 to buy the waders that feature those. Awesome. I don't want to spend the money, and I don't want more moving parts. I like having a waterproof pocket in the front so I can throw my cell phone and the keys there, not because I need my phone and I need my keys on me all the time, but just the way that I fish and the way that I move, I want those things somewhere safe, secure, and on me. As soon as I put my waders on, before I even close my car up, I know where everything is. I love my waders because they're convertible. I think, hippers and, waders that are just like waist level, they're fine, especially if you're a guide or you know exactly where you're fishing all the time. But for somebody who's fishing all over the place, fresh, salt, rivers, lakes, big creeks, small creeks, having chest waders that are convertible, either the way they're built, like the waders that I have, or you're able to just roll them down and strap them around your waist, that's a great thing to have, especially when the weather gets warmer. Then, again, I said this with the boots. With the waders, it's the same thing. Try them on. Some waders, especially companies that make a lot of different fly fishing products, or companies that only do a couple of series of waders, they might only have 5, 6, 7 sizes of waders. Small, medium, large. Medium, tall. Extra large, tall, and a couple other ones. Other wader manufacturers have so many more sizes. So you might strike it, good and find a less expensive pair that fits you great, or you might need to spend a little bit more money to get the ones that fit you well. And this is important. Try them on with just a t-shirt on. Grab a wading jacket or something in the store and put it on underneath your waders. I know you're not going to wear your wading jacket underneath your waders, but try to simulate bulk, because I had a pair of waders where I couldn't cinch the straps down tight enough once I just had a t-shirt on. So I was kind of a little bit loose in the front just because I didn't have I couldn't cinch those waders down, the straps down enough. Because when I tried it on, I think I had on a fleece or something like that. And I thought, okay, this'll do. And even just those a quarter of an inch is enough where it moves around a little bit on me. Not the worst thing in the world. But as far as how many layers of breathable fabric and how much Gore-Tex and reinforcement and stitching and all those things, if you fish really hard, those things are going to matter. But if you, it's 2019. People aren't making junk anymore. At least by and large, the major fly fishing manufacturers aren't making junk anymore. And a lot of people stand by their product with a warranty. So I'll say that, that stuff matters. And if it matters to you, then go for it. Fit matters more to me because I feel like my waders will last longer if they fit better than if they have more bells and whistles, but because they don't fit right, they kind of get worn harder, if that makes sense. Last but not least, weighting belt. Wear a weighting belt. I think I shared a story on the podcast about me falling in a big tailwater down south, and the weighting belt, I'm not going to say it saved my life, but it certainly didn't hurt that I had a weighting belt on. But buy a weighting belt also because you can strap stuff to it. You can put your water bottle on it. You can put your weighting staff on it. You can put your net on it. It does a lot of things for inhibiting water from getting in if you were to fall, and essentially creating a de facto life vest because you have some trapped air from your waist down to your feet with that weighting belt on there. So it's a worthwhile investment. Most wader manufacturers throw one in there with you now, although a couple sell them with stretchy ones, which are not helpful if you are putting something on there. There's a pair of waders I had that had a stretchy weighting belt, and as soon as I put my net on it, it just drooped, and it wasn't safe because it was no longer functioning as a belt constricting the water that would come in if I were to fall. Last thing, I didn't mention neoprene versus just straight up breathable. If you're going to fish tailwaters, if you're going to fish salmon steelhead all the time, if you're going to also duck hunt, then get a pair of neoprenes. But honestly, I love having the flexibility of not only being able to wear one nice pair of waders year round, but also as you layer in breathable waders, that as long as you're using the right type of layers, your polypropylene base liner and your fleece, pants and whatnot, that moisture is going to leave while the heat stays in. Whereas if you have a pair of neoprene waders and you're moving a lot, then that heat has nowhere to go, and so you're going to start to sweat, and then that's going to get cold. So if you're not going to move a lot, again, and you're going to use them for duck hunting, or you're just going to get out of your car, walk down to the steelhead run and stand still, then yeah, neoprene waders will probably give you a little bit more warmth. But if you're going to be moving around, definitely go with just breathable. So that's some of my thoughts on waders and wading boots. Not super timely because, again, it's the middle of summer, but you never know what sales you might find. If you have a favorite pair of wading boots, whether it be for wet wading or for traditional wading or waders, let me know what they are. I'm always interested to hear what people like to wear because, again, I mentioned a couple of brands that I like that I don't have a ton of allegiance to, but I love the current models of boots and waders I'm using. But you never know. I might blow them out tomorrow and have to find something new. And so I'd love to hear what you all use. This week on Casting Across, I had 2 articles, as usual, one on Monday and one on Friday. Monday's article was called Fly Fishing That Shines in the Rain. And I talked about 3 things that I think happened to the fish when it started raining and 3 things that I did when it started raining. Just kind of common sense stuff, but at the same time, just things to think about. And really, fish in the rain, especially if you don't have a ton of time to fish. Don't let a little rain scare you. In my situation last week, it actually turned the fish a little bit more active. My next article is called A Stuck Fly Rod and Things That Should Help. Actually, no, and 6 things that should help. So another list of 6 things. You Google how to get a fly rod unstuck, and you're going to get a bazillion answers, and that is not an overstatement. But I have one of my bamboo fly rods that got stuck. I was out fishing, and actually that day that it was raining, and so the humidity, I think, got to it, and it's not coming apart. So I'm talking about some ways that to get it unstuck in that article that I think that have worked in the past that actually haven't worked this time, but you can read the article to find out what I mean by that. Today's recommendation is actually another Loon product. It is their UV kit. It combines 2 products, the UV Knot Sense and the UV Wader Repair, and it comes with a little UV light, little tiny one, the size of like a AA battery. It's $32.95, so it might seem like a lot for 2 little tubes and a little flashlight, but it's awesome, and here's why. The Wader Repair dries within 10 seconds. So I would advise if you get a little pinhole leak or a little tiny scratch on your waders, you have this in your vest or in your sling pack or in your wader pocket, and you do the inside, let it dry, do the outside, let it dry, using that flashlight. Again, it takes about 10 seconds. So you're going to spend more time taking your waders off than you are fixing your waders using the UV Wader Repair. And the Knot Sense is great for if you tie your own leaders, especially if you're tying, salt or for carp or for, toothy critters, things that run. having a knot that goes through your guides and doesn't get hung up is huge. Using the knot sense creates a nice, smooth knot. It takes those minute tag ends and really smooths it by creating a very gradual taper and transition. And again, you just use that little UV light. So go to loonoutdoors.com. I'll throw a link in the show notes for this page. You can check that out. Thanks again for listening, guys. I do appreciate it. If you enjoy the podcast, please share it with somebody that you know is into fly fishing or you want to get into fly fishing. I also do appreciate the emails and the chirps on social media. Make sure you're following me on Instagram at Casting Across, Twitter at Casting Across, and the Facebook page also, so you can stay up to date with everything going on the website and the podcast. So thanks for listening to the Casting Across Fly Fishing Podcast. Please subscribe in your favorite podcast app and rate the podcast on iTunes. Then head over to castingacross.com where you'll find more info on this podcast and 3 posts a week on the people, places, and things that go into the pursuit of fish.